Hello everyone and welcome to Quality Old Games. Today we are making another tier list, this time from Scythia's unit roster. I was about to say Scythia's Cavalry roster, but I guess they are pretty much equal. So, the roster is based on campaign setting, so in addition to units' fighting capabilities, although the requirements and costs and training times, etc., are taken into consideration, but of course the largest emphasis is on the fighting capabilities. And without further ado, let's begin with Cavalry. First we have Barbarian Cavalry, and by the way, the units are kind of evaluated within the roster. Of course, the overall units roster in Rome Total War is taken into consideration, but more emphasis is on the kind of internal roster within the faction. And because of that, I think Barbarian Cavalry actually is rather bad unit. I mean, you need tier 2 settlement to get it, and actually you can get better unit, quite a bit better unit, from tier 1 settlement. So, in my opinion, the unit is not completely obsolete. You may need some melee cavalry early in the game, but not that much in my opinion, so that's the reasoning why they are in bad tier. Then we have early bodyguard, and that's actually interesting because next to it we have late bodyguard, and to my eyes, actually the late bodyguard looks earlier than the early bodyguard, but I guess that's intentional. But yeah, early bodyguard, I mean, heavy cavalry units early in the game, of course, wannabe Spartan. I mean, solid enough unit, even though it's the barbarian variant, which I don't value that highly, but still, heavy cavalry in the early game is always heavy cavalry in the early game. However, when we get to the late bodyguard, I mean, the stats are not that much different. The only main difference is that the late bodyguard has better charge, and it has heavier armor, but it does not have shield. And especially in the late game, in my opinion, the survivability of generals will be rather important, and as the enemy is fielding rather good units most likely, then shields would be rather a must for a general in my opinion. And because of that, I will give these guys only decent tier. So, So, in my opinion, especially in terms of the game progression, the late bodyguard for Scythia is a downgrade from the early bodyguard. Then we have headhunting maidens, rather nice units, one of the few cavalry units with armor-piercing attacks. You can recruit them from temples, so that's really nice, especially for Scythia, as the settlements are rather slowly growing. You may need up that population boost temple or growth temple, and you can recruit these girls from there. And in my opinion, the major downside for this unit is that it takes 2 turns to recruit. So you can get some really good units with 1 turn recruitment time, and thus these are not quite on the top of my list, so they will go to wannabe Spartans as well. The fast speed of the unit is nice as well, and they actually can do rather well against heavier opponents, so they will hit above their weight class quite often. A really nice unit. Then we have what makes Scythia so special, horse archers, and you actually get this horse archer, the basic horse archer, from tier 1 barracks, which is rather insane, so you get one of the most OP units in the game from tier 1 building. And I guess that's quite enough to put the unit to Spartan tier. I mean, absolutely best tier 1 unit, perhaps even the best tier 1 and 2 unit combined, pretty much. So yeah, clearly a Spartan tier. And then when we get to higher tier stables, so Scythian noble archers would require tier 2 stables, meaning tier 3 settlement. What these guys have going over the basic horse archers is that these have long range, and that's really cool for horse archers. There are only few of these that do have that long range, and they only take 1 turn to train, so that's really nice as well. Of course, the tier 2 stables is quite high requirement for barbarian faction, but still, I mean, the unit clearly earns a place in Spartan tier. Then we have Scythian noblewomen, well, we have maidens from tier 2 temple, and then we have these noblewomen from tier 3 temple. And as well as the Scythian nobles, these do have long range, which is rather nice. However, they also take 2 turns to train. So because of that, I will give them only wannabe Spartan tier. A solid unit, perhaps a bit lower stats than the Scythian nobles, but the main thing hurting them is the longer training time required. And then we have Scythian nobles. I mean, I will put them straightly to bad category. I mean, they do require tier 2 stables, and of course powerful charge heavy cavalry is always nice, but these guys do take beating quite easily as they don't have shield. The armor is not that good, and actually their attack skill combined with their charge bonus is not that much higher than with the Scythian noble archers. So basically this unit is actually obsolete. So perhaps it will actually go from bad category to Eastern infantry category. I'm not sure. Well, I'm feeling generous, so perhaps they can remain in the bad category, at least for now, on the lowest end of bad category. Then we have war dogs. They can be annoying in some cases, especially if you are fighting against them. They can be rather nice in other cases if you are controlling them. So I will give them a decent tier. And one of the main downsides, in my opinion, is that they take 2 turns to train. So available from tier 1 barracks, from tier 2 settlement practically, but 2 turns to train is quite a lot if compared to, for example, horse archers or these noble horse archers, or Scythian noble archers. So yeah. But yeah, there we have most of the Scythian roster, namely cavalry, and then let's move to infantry. The whole 2 units. First we have axemen. Scythia is a cavalry faction, and well, there might be some cases where you need infantry line, especially if you are building foot archers. But I mean, getting tier 2 barracks to get these guys, when you can get these from tier 1 barracks, I don't see that a good way to spend money. I mean, you could get 2-3 additional units of these already from the cost of building those barracks, and one-on-one, I mean, horse archers. I don't know a situation where horse archers could be worse than axemen. Perhaps defending city walls, but then or assaulting city walls, but then again, if you are defending city walls with Scythia or assaulting city walls with Scythia, perhaps you are not playing the faction correctly. So, in my opinion, you should try to avoid actual sieges. If you besiege, you need to try to make the opponent sally forth to you, so you can utilize horse archers. And if you are defending a settlement, you should sally forth so that you can fight the battle in the open field instead of the walls. So bad to obsolete or to Eastern infantry. Then we have peasants. I guess, once again, rather clearly to Spartan tier, and not because of the fighting capabilities, but because of the public order capabilities. So you are limited to tier 3 buildings, which will cause huge difficulties in terms of public order when you are capturing larger developed cities which have tier 4 buildings already. So basically you will end up having culture penalty, and your temples are going to be inadequate for maintaining the public order, so you must use peasants practically, or barbarian peasants, to maintain public order. And in some cases it might be useful to transfer population from one settlement to another, but in battle they might be of some use if you use them in the city center where they cannot break, but once again, if that's the situation, something has gone wrong with the playthrough, because you should beat the enemies with the horse archers when playing with Scythia. Then we have missile units, which is rather interesting because we already have quite a few of missile units here that are really good, but then again perhaps these are not completely obsolete, because the unit size is larger and they actually do quite well in battles. So first, Archer Warband, tier 1 missile unit, basically from tier 2 settlement. I don't think it's actually bad. It's quite cheap, relatively easy to get, so decent enough in quite a few situations. But once again, in my opinion, you should try to get these over these. So they are not that great when compared to horse archers, but in some situations they can be useful. And the same goes to Chosen Archer Warband, one of the strongest archery units in the game, and of course if you are facing against Parthians or Armenians that do have their own horse cavalry or missile cavalry, these might actually be the best answer against them if you are lacking superior numbers of these horse archers and Scythian noble archers. So these can be quite good long-range missiles, decent enough stats also in melee, so they can actually hold out against light cavalry, which is rather nice. So I think I will give these guys 1-up Spartan tier, and of course 1 turn training time for such a good archery unit is always nice. So 1-up Spartans. Then we have Onagers. I think I will give them Eastern Infantry tier. And the main reason for that is the slow movement speed on campaign map. Because if you make your army mostly of horse archers, you have some melee cavalries mixed within, the slow movement speed of Onagers will be really troubling. And also, I get that in sieges, if you begin to siege a settlement, you want to smash in quickly, so Onagers would be good, so you can get your cavalry in, but with at least huge unit size, fighting with missile cavalry on city streets sounds like a recipe for disaster, at least if I'm commanding the troops. So the units will become stuck in the settlement corners and building corners and engage in the wrong moment and so on and so forth. So I think Onagers are just useless for Scythia. And to make the list a bit more balanced, I think we will move the Scythian nobles to Eastern Infantry tier. Not because of the fighting capabilities, but because, in my opinion, they are rather obsolete. So this is my tier list of Scythian units. Do you agree or disagree? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. And thank you very much for watching. If you like the content, please leave a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Both of those will help a great deal. And if you want to support the channel, consider becoming a channel member. You get more to say what type of videos to make, what versus battles to make, etc, etc. And very special thanks to existing channel members. Your support is greatly treasured. Have a great rest of the day. Quality Old Games out.